Hey, my friends. Today we're going to be talking about why it is essential to surrender to the grief process and how to do that. I know the most comfortable thing would be to ignore it and pretend like everything is okay and go about your day and pretend that it hasn't affected your life and completely changed everything. But when you have lost someone or something, if you don't honor your grief, it will affect your relationships now and in the future. And why do we feel like, I think as a culture, that grief needs to be something that we rush through, right? That, oh, are you done grieving? Is it completed? Have you hurried, can you hurry through it? Because I'm sick of seeing you sad. And that's hard. I know I shared it before, but people don't like seeing us uncomfortable. And I'm sitting there in the funeral line, in my husband's viewing, standing next to his casket, and a distant family member says, well, how long are you going to be sad for? And it's just like, we've talked about, people say the craziest things, but unless you've gone through it, you just don't understand. And if you're going through it and others don't understand, that's okay. That is all right. You keep grieving. You keep doing what you need to do to get through it. I find it interesting that in some Native American grieving customs, the Chippewa, for example, they create a doll made from the dead child's hair. And then the mother carries it, symbolizing her grief for a year. I think that's so beautiful, especially having lost somebody. That symbol is how it feels. Even now, 6 years out, and I'm healthy and have great relationships, but I carry grief. It's hard. And when life, ebbs and flows and I have challenges, it ignites that grief. And I just need to be very aware to honor that as it bubbles up like tears. Quote from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is, unexpressed tears do not go away. Their sadness resides in our bodies and souls. Tears are a symbol of life. Don't put off or ignore grief. It's been given to you, and you alone are the only one that can push through it. And if not, it's going to bubble and fester and come to a head in a lot of other ways in your life. And doing what I do, being a grief mentor, and also experiencing grief and seeing those in my immediate family experience grief and loss, I've seen the gamut of how people deal with it, and then the people that don't want to deal with it. And the people that don't want to deal with it, it affects their relationships and their ability to love themselves if they're stuffing that grief and ignoring the pain. When an individual recognizes that denial cannot continue, they become frustrated, especially at certain individuals, including the ones who have passed away. I know those on the outside, it doesn't make sense, but when you've lost somebody, even if they didn't choose to end their life, you get mad at them. Like it is a cycle. It is one of the stages of grief, and that's anger. Now, if you feel like this sounds like you, where it's like, hey girl, Kamille is talking and I need to surrender to grief. I have been ignoring it. I have been putting it on the shelf and it's starting to get rancid and I can feel that it's affecting me. This episode is for you. On my website, I have a packet for this week to go especially along with this episode to help you figure out how to surrender to grief if you're stuck. So check out KamilleBauer.com. Check out my website. If you feel like you're like, why me? It's not fair. How can this be happening? Who is to blame? Why is this happening? Remember, these are side effects. Anger is a side effect of grief and loss. And And especially with the pandemic, grief and loss, people think at first it's just somebody that dies. But it's also can be, that whole grief cycle can pertain to something that is lost and something that you're missing in your life, whether that's a job, a friendship, the way it used to be, graduation ceremonies, things. I had friends that, one in particular, their wife died this past year with 3 little kids, and during COVID, like, they couldn't even have a funeral, and I can't even imagine the extra layers of anger and the disdain that you would experience. But again, if you're stuck, if you feel like I'm ignoring my grief, this episode is for you. And check out my free 5-page little packet that I made special for you that you can just download and print off my website. But anger, so I'm going to touch a little bit on that today. If you're feeling like sadness, panic, hurt, loneliness, that is a sign of grief. Grief is also closely related with anger. And anger is a sign that you can feel. You did love, and you have lost something or someone. And that is healthy. That is normal. You're not a freak. Don't forget that. And if you think that you're alone in your grief, yes, grief is unique as a fingerprint to everybody, but you are not alone in feeling your anger and your loss. With grief, do you have another thing that piggybacks with anger that I talk a lot about with my clients is 1, guilt. Guilt. Are you dealing with guilt? Any of the circumstances revolving around the somebody or the someone you've lost. Relief. I know me personally, I dealt with guilt because of relief after my husband passed away. I mean, we had 12 surgeries in 4 years and experimental chemos and countless doctor's appointments, and I wouldn't change anything, but I remember a couple weeks after he had passed, being relieved that our life didn't revolve around an illness. And I felt guilty for that because it doesn't mean I was relieved he was gone. I was relieved that the illness and all of the emotions that go around it wasn't consuming our daily life. And instead of that, it was grief. So I'm happy to be able to help you know that you are not alone. If you're feeling that guilt, the relief, living with regrets, resentment, because you know what? It doesn't always die, resentment with death, okay? An old anger that we never dealt with or have the chance to deal with will affect you. And the older I have got in my life and the more that I have dealt with people in their different challenges, I have learned so much that unresolved trauma and pain will affect you if you don't acknowledge it and work through it and talk to somebody and get help. And I have seen the beautiful transformation of people that have taken the courageous steps to feel through surrendering to the grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross says again in a great quote, "Intellect does not inform matters of the heart. Regrets are of the heart. The yearning for more, the chance to always do it better. Regrets will always belong to the past, and death has a cruel way of giving regrets more attention than they deserve." Renata Suzuki also says, quote, "Regret is such a short word, but it stretches on forever." So again, if you're dealing with any of these symptomatic anger feelings from your grief, download my free packet on my website, KamilleBauer.com. You can click through and it's going to give you tips to help with that grief, with that resentment, that guilt. Today, I'm going to be giving you 3 things you can do to get out of regret and despair if you feel like you're shoving that surrendering process away. Because regrets won't do anything for the hurt, but it will rob you of the present. And losing someone we love, we know how precious that time really is. So, knowing now that you need to surrender, how do you do it? You're like, yeah, Kamille, I'm hearing you say that, but obviously I'm stuck and frustrated. I really don't know what to do. I'm going to tell you. Number 1, journal your frustrations. Write it out. Like, whatever you need to say, whether it's you feel that it's completely outlandish, totally unwarranted, crazy, whatever, you write it out. Because when you write it out, it is scientifically proven to help you. So journal your frustrations. 2, live with your feelings. Honor them. It's a sign of deep loss to feel not happy, to feel bummed, to not feel like you want to go to something. What or who you lost is tragic. You don't need to change how you feel. And grief sometimes makes others uncomfortable, right? We talked about that. Let's hurry and fix it. Let's get over it. Let me give you a Kleenex so you can stop making me uncomfortable. But it's okay to be sad and it's okay to be upset. A natural side effect of losing somebody is being sad, is being depressed, is being devastated. So if you don't want to go to something, don't go to something. If you know you're going to make others uncomfortable and you're in a funk, it's okay. Give yourself the grace to be in your grief. 3, how do you honor it? Again, if you don't feel like participating in things, don't. Ride the wave. It is a fine line of not wanting to waste the time you do have being mad and sad, but then also being able to live your life and not let it pass you by. Okay? So number 4, which is the most important, if you cannot function and it's lasting more than you feel is right, then seek the help of your doctor or your mental professional. Get the help that you need. You can do one of the following, right? Talk to your doctor, licensed therapist, call a friend. Do you have a good friend you can call? As well as counseling, there's bereavement groups. I know there's some great ones out there you can get online, or even ask in like social media, or reach out to someone that you know has lost somebody. And then number 4 is you can get on a free 30-minute call with me. A grief to happiness session is something that I'm honored to be able to give in a setting that is free, that is safe, and to see if my services and my loss and my expertise is going to be able to be compatible with you and help you in your grief to loss journey. And hope and happiness is available. It is there for you. And if you surrender to your grief, then you have the potential to have happiness and a deeper ocean and availability to love and be loved and have a healthy, happy life. But if you stuff it and you put it on the shelf, it's going to impact. And I've seen it in so many ways. So you guys, I love you, and I'm excited this week that me and my team put together. It's 5 pages. You can go print for free. It's a free downloadable. If you know someone who's experiencing grief and loss and it's not you, you could even just share that with them and to help them know that they're not alone. And I love you, and remember that you can do hard things, and if you're feeling like you're in a funk or you're in a frump, you are not alone. And I am here for you, and I am so honored to be able to talk to you guys every week. Again, if you need a little extra TLC, you can hop on a free 30-minute discovery session with me, and you could check that out as well as my schedule on my website, KamilleBauer.com. I love you guys, and stay tuned. for next week's episode. Bye-bye.